After only dropping 3 games to reigning Olympic gold medalist Qinwen Zheng, Aryna Sabalenka solidified her title as the woman to beat at the 2024 US Open. She'll be the favorite against Emma Navarro, who'll be competing in her very first Slam semifinal. However, can the American use her variety and her home crowd support to get her over the edge? Hello, my name is Christian Basnight, and welcome to Christian's Court, where I cover tennis from all angles. If you haven't yet already, make sure you subscribe and click that notification bell so you're notified whenever I post more US Open content like my US Open men's semifinal previews. Now, going into the head-to-head between these two, they've played twice, both times coming this year, and the head-to-head is tied at 1 apiece. Sabalenka won their last match, which was at Roland Garros in the round of 16 by a score of 6-2, 6-3. Navarro won their very first encounter at Indian Wells in the same round of 16, but this one was on hard courts in 3 sets. Navarro honestly plays very similar in both of these matches, but we really saw two different Aryna Sabalenkas. At Indian Wells, Sabalenka struggled a lot with the windier conditions, and she was not landing those same finishing forehand kill shots that she would normally make. Aryna also was just not in the best form around that time, and credit to Navarro though, she took full advantage and played a clean match. She was constantly applying pressure and taking time away from the world number 2, and she wasn't used to Navarro's game style, and just low-key Navarro probably shocked her a little bit. And really, Emma never made Aryna feel that comfortable out there. Now, Roland Garros was a completely different story. It was one-way traffic, as Sabalenka was more back to her A level. All aspects of her game were on point, and she really overpowered Navarro, to be honest, while employing nice blends of touch with the drop shots. Looking at Aryna's road to the semifinals, it was very businesslike. She's only dropped 1 set, and that was to Ekaterina Alexandrova in the 3rd round, but she won the last 2 sets of that match very comfortably. Of course, she beat Qinwen Zheng 1 and 2 in the recent quarterfinals, and honestly, that match was a big letdown. I was expecting a little bit more. I knew Aryna would win it in straight sets, but still, it was just very poor in overall quality. Sabalenka did not even play that great, but Zheng was just that far off her game. The 3 main reasons for me why this one was so lopsided was, first, it's just a bad matchup for Zheng. Sabalenka's power, yes, it is a lot for Qinwen, especially with her forehand grip and whatnot, but I also think Qinwen just had a bad strategy of returning so deep from behind the baseline. She just wasn't timing the returns right either, and I don't know exactly what it was, but it's just like Qinwen missed so many returns, and she didn't play that poorly against Donna Vekic. And it's funny how Pam Shriver, who was commentating the match, she coaches Vekic. And Pam, you can tell she was definitely a little bit salty that Zheng was playing poorly against Sabalenka, but she played lights out against Vekic, it seemed like. Also, Qinwen, she has a good serve, but she just struggled to hold due to her 44% first serve in rate. Sabalenka, meanwhile, she had a great 71% first serve percentage, and she won 73% of points behind her first serve, and 64% of her points behind the second. Low-key, I think it might be a mental thing with Zheng when it comes to facing Sabalenka, and it might be something similar to an Iga and Coco kind of quote-unquote rivalry. Then I too think the 2:15 a.m. finish from her 4th round against Vekic could have played a part and could have caught up to her in this quarterfinal. Even though I wasn't totally impressed with Sabalenka's game from that quarterfinal, she did a great job of keeping the distance between her and Zheng in the scoreline and just not letting her into this match at all. That's been the main thing I've been impressed by Sabalenka in this entire tournament. She's been very clutch lately. Against Elisa Mertens in the 4th round, she saved all 8 break points that she faced, and she's only been broken 4 times in this tournament. The scorelines look pretty concisive and decisive, but to be honest, Sabalenka is being pushed a little bit more in these tournaments than we might think, but because she's able to get past those tough games, that's why she's able to comfortably move through scoreline-wise in the end. Now, Emma Navarro has had a little bit of a trickier road to the semifinals, and she's on a run of beating 3 strong-seeded opponents in Marta Kostyuk, Coco Gauff, the defending champion, and Paula Badosa, who she defeated in the quarterfinal. There's been a very clear and common theme from Navarro in her last 3 matches, and that is start very strong, play mid towards the middle of the match, and then finish strong. Against Badosa in particular, Emma played very well throughout the entire first set, and she was strong, and even though Badosa wasn't as on her game, Navarro, it was really nothing that she did wrong, to be totally honest. It was high class from her. Now, in the second set, her level dipped for sure, and she started spraying more errors, and Badosa started finding her footing. And the Spanish woman led Navarro by a score of 5-1 in that second set. But Navarro, giving credit to her, she picked back up her level again. She stopped missing balls that she was missing during the early part of the second set, and she took full advantage of Badosa's dip in play. I definitely got to give credit to her Emma for being able to flip the switch like that in all three of her recent matches. Now, there's no denying that Badosa collapsed. She said it herself in her post-match press conference, and she said that she felt that she had no momentum even when she was up 5-1. So I don't know if it's a thing about her just having a mental block when it comes to trying to reach the higher echelons of the sport, and especially in the slams, or if it's due to Navarro feeling like she snuffs out opponents, if that makes any type of sense. But once again, Navarro did very well to fight her way through that match and progress through to the semifinals. Now, Navarro is very tough to play. She has no real major holes in her game, and she does everything well. And I was noticing in particular against Coco, it must be very frustrating to play Emma because she hits with such consistent pace and depth of shot. And it'll take someone like a Sabalenka with strong, consistent power to make her uncomfortable. Now, for Navarro to be successful in this match, I think that first she needs to start well, have a good start. The first set, I think, would be extremely crucial for Navarro in this one. She tends to start well, especially in her last three matches, but she's got to keep it up because if she does fall behind in the opening set, or if she drops the opening set, it'll just be an uphill battle for her, I believe. Another thing, I think that Navarro needs to be opportunistic whenever she has any little openings. Applying scoreboard pressure to Sabalenka will be huge in this one. I think that there will be an inevitable time where Viklenka starts spraying balls, but she is able to escape Sabalenka and maintain good distance in the scoreline, and some of that is due to her strong serving, which I'll get into a little bit later. As I mentioned earlier when talking about the head-to-head, Navarro did a great job of taking time away from Sabalenka in their Indian Wells match, and she needs to make sure that she does the same thing here. Now, in doing that, she should try to step up and try to take Viklenka's second serve on and early and kind of rush Sabalenka because, like Navarro, Sabalenka does not do well when she's rushed, especially kind of in the middle of the court. Even aside from the return, Navarro did a great job at Indian Wells. Whenever she saw any little ball that landed remotely short or in no man's land, she stepped up and took it early to take time away from Sabalenka. She just any ball, short ball she sees from Viklenka in the semifinal, she needs to step up and go for it. I think that Emma also needs to use the crowd to her advantage in this one. It's really not her forte to try to do the things that Coco was doing in their fourth round match, but I think that she needs to try to use them a little bit here to her aid. Viklenka does not do that great whenever she's rooted against, and I think that if the crowd is a notable factor in this one, it can really mess up Sabalenka, even aside from the 2023 U.S. Open, infamous U.S. Open Finals, where the crowd was so pro-golf. The 2021 U.S. Open semifinals with Leylah Fernandez. Fernandez was the big crowd favorite, and Viklenka low-key crumbled there towards the end. So I think for sure, if Navarro gets them engaged consistently, that could be a major factor and possibly deter Sabalenka mentally if things do get tight. Now, going over the world number two's keys to the match, I think that Sabalenka needs to try to engage in as many forehand-to-forehand rallies as possible. And she needs to go at the Navarro forehand with consistent pace. Navarro is very good on her forehand whenever she has time, but that side definitely can break down whenever she's faced with immense pace. I don't know if it's her grip or her take back or whatever else, but sometimes, like whenever she has a consistent pace, she doesn't return the ball back with interest at all. And a lot of times she kind of like frames it a little bit or whiffs it and it goes kind of short in the net. I think I can for sure see Sabalenka making Navarro very uncomfortable with the big forehand to her, the Navarro forehand. Also, what worked well in Roland Garros was Sabalenka using big power shots to push her opponent Navarro deep behind the baseline before taking advantage of her deeper court positioning with the drop shots. That's something I think she can still use to her aid here on the hard courts. I think it keeps Navarro on her toes and will definitely catch her off guard. Now, the Navarro second serve is the weakest shot that Sabalenka will see out there on the court, so I think that Viklenka needs to do a good job of stepping up and attacking the American second serve. She did an excellent job of this during the Roland Garros match as she won 79% of her own second serve return points. That's something that I believe opponents haven't been quite taking advantage of against Navarro in their matches, and I think if Viklenka can try to do that more in this match, it'll definitely be a rude awakening for the 13th seed. And then my final point for Sabalenka right now is to continue her clutchness, especially on her serve. When her back is against the wall, Sabalenka tends to bring her best tennis and dig herself out of trouble. Now, preferably, Sabalenka wouldn't want to be in those positions anyways, but still, when it's going to happen to where she's going to be tight in games, especially on her serve. So it's going to be up to her to bring that good serving. She does a great job of making first serves in whenever her back is against the wall. And even when she doesn't make first serves in, she does a great job of applying pressure on her opponents to prevent them from even getting on the upper hand. So I think that's something she needs to continue to do here in the semifinal. And I think she has to maintain good distance whenever / when she does have a lead over Navarro. Now, talking about the intangibles, I know a lot of people, including myself in this video, have talked about the crowd being a factor in Navarro's advantage. And now I know the crowd will definitely be a concern for Sabalenka, and they will be on Emma's side. There's no denying it. She is the American, and she was born in New York. But she will not experience Sabalenka anything worse than last year's US Open final against Coco. I think that she's dealt with the brunt of it, so I don't think that she'll be too deterred, or she should not be at least too deterred by what she faces with Emma. I also don't see the crowd going up for Emma as much. You know, it's Navarro. It's not a good... That's so shady. But I say that to say I don't think that Emma will get them engaged like that as much, to be honest. So I think the crowd won't be too much of a factor in this one, but you never know. I also think Sabalenka's greater experience at this stage will be interesting here. I think it could decide a lot in this matchup. This will be Navarro's first Slam semifinal, while it'll be Sabalenka's 4th consecutive US Open semifinal, which is kind of insane. That's a big contrast in experience. Sabalenka has seemingly conquered the Slam semifinal demons, which is a huge feat considering that this is a very big stage and a Slam. There are bound to be nerves for Navarro. We haven't seen them a lot throughout her, illustrious rise in her tennis career. She has handled the pressure and expectations of big first very well, but playing on Ash at night in your first Slam semifinal would be a different type of pressure, I feel. Navarro has not played a night match yet on a show court, and it's just different. It's no comparing it. Prime time on Ash, the world is watching you. The crowd is going to be fully behind you, but that brings a different type of pressure. Bottom line, I think if Emma can maintain good scoreboard pressure and make good gains in Sabalenka's serve, she has a good shot here. I don't think it's as big of a gap as people are making it out to be. I know commentators were saying it's the field versus Sabalenka, but once again, I think that if Zheng was a little bit more solid, we definitely could have seen a much more competitive match, but it wouldn't have looked that much in favor of Sabalenka. I think there is definitely potential for players to beat her in this tournament for sure. We haven't seen it in a minute, but I think there is the possibility of Sabalenka kind of having that collapse that we saw from her in 2023, in the US Open final. I think that was the last true time we saw her collapse, but it could very well happen here again. Another thing, too, is that Emma has played a lot of tennis lately. A week before the US Open, she played a 500 tournament in Monterrey, making it to the semifinals there. And then 2, she played the Olympics, Toronto, and Cincinnati. That's a lot of mileage, and I could very well see the moment of the occasion catch up to her, as well as all the tennis that she has played. So I will be putting Sabalenka through to her 2nd consecutive final in Flushing with a 3-4 win. Do you agree with my Sabalenka straight sets pick? Or will Navarro grab a set or even 2 to pull off the upset? Leave your thoughts in the comment section below, and make sure you subscribe and click the notification bell as well, so once again you are notified whenever I post more content throughout the tournament. Thank you all so much for your support, and I'll see y'all next time here on Christian's Court.